your relevancy to a keyword impacts its cost per click, it impacts the actual bid on that product. If you understand that, you'll see that, okay, if I am not actively working on my organic optimizations for a product and I'm just advertising on it, you're going to be paying significantly more for less.
Good afternoon from Bentonville, Arkansas. My name is Matt Fifer. Welcome to Winning with Walmart. And we are joined today for a conversation, not a presentation, a conversation with our friend David Milstein, the co-founder and COO of SellCord. David, welcome.
Hey, Matt. Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited.
But introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about SellCord and we'll jump in.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt. So I'm David. I am, as you mentioned, the co-founder of SellCord. I actually have a background in tech. I used to work in, systems implementation within a 3PL business. And when I joined SellCord, it was more about like the organization. My partners are more of like the growth and business development, but I like operations. I like to keep things very, very well organized. And, we had been selling online as just Amazon sellers for years, and then we discovered we had some products that started blowing up on Walmart. We're like, hey, let's take a little bit of a deeper look into this. And we decided, hey, let's go even beyond just selling on Walmart and let's become an agency here. We saw the opportunities that exist within Walmart.com. And that's when SellCord first started. And it's been about, I think, like 5 years now. And it's been great. We've been seeing some amazing traction working with brands of really all sizes, just helping their digital growth and succeeding on Walmart.com.
Well, let's start with some of the fundamentals. Why do you think it is that so many brands underestimate the demands of Walmart, particularly early on in their relationship?
I feel like Walmart still kind of doesn't have that like as strong of a name, let's say, as Amazon in this space, in terms of the .com side of things. And people will just put more of their eggs or more of their effort within maybe within D2C or within Amazon, and they just throw their products onto Walmart and hoping something will stick. They'll maybe even run a little bit of advertising, but they don't put in the effort of the optimization and really understanding what drives sales on Walmart and all these like the core pieces to success on the platform. I find that's where people typically underestimate that some minor thing that's little as maybe like the categorization of your products could actually play such a major role within your item's ability to succeed. So it's really not giving it the time,
Yeah. So on a broad basis, for a team to take share within a category at Walmart, what does that look like from a practical standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. So within share, I like to think that you want to definitely make sure that you're not just limiting yourself to a small item set, right? If you have, let's say, a broader set of items, if you just take one item and you try to get in there, maybe someone will see your product and maybe they'll resonate with it. But if you have, let's say, a number of different products within the same category, and on your top search terms, you're going very aggressively with all the ad placements, you're taking your brand, your video, you might have a display ad, you're winning top of search, you have 5 different placements on the first page. People come into that and it's just such a different experience. When you search for something and you see one brand is dominating as a whole, even if you've never heard of that brand before, it's a challenger brand. You're like, oh, what is going on over here? You see, oh, this brand is actually dominating over here. They're winning on the platform. It probably means something. It probably means it's a good product, probably something I should invest in. So really just giving, that broader, not just, oh, let's just try out one product and see if this works. That's not going to really help you win that overall share.
So before we get into the weeds, in a general basis, what is the difference? Well, a challenger brand. What causes some brands to really gain momentum when it comes to growth and taking share compared to others that might lag behind?
It's really this is I think going to be a concept that we're really going to be discussing and divulging more of, is the effort put behind the work into your listings. That those who just, even someone who might get their products on Walmart and start to see some sales going, but without actually understanding, hey, am I growing incremental sales? Am I actually gaining share and rank within a keyword? Those are the ones who really are going to be able to succeed because they could see they're tracking things. They're tracking their metrics. They're seeing their sales rank number improve. They see their digital penetration is improving. Versus if they're just a brand that's just, okay, I made some sales. Okay, I should expect to make more the next month. That might be wrong because you're not actually doing anything. You're just maybe paying for sales today without actually seeing a return in the future.
Where are you seeing brands overinvest or maybe more importantly, under investing with Walmart?
People overinvest in aggressive advertising without
Hmm.
the fundamentals of content done correctly. So I think they
Hmm.
underinvest in content and overinvest in advertising. So let me just explain a little bit about this. So Walmart has a very strong relationship between the content of your listing and its ability to rank, as well as the ability for it to rank from a sponsored perspective. So just in short, when you're advertising, the assumption is that the top advertised products, when you're looking at the top of search, are the people who are paying more. You think that the guy number one versus the guy in slot number two and three and four, etc., is all in order. The guy in the first spot is obviously paying more than the guy in the second spot. That's not actually true. It's actually a multiplier of the bid, which is how much you're paying for it, and then a relevancy score, which is something on Walmart's back end, which they use to determine, is this product relevant to the search query that you're attempting to bid for? And based on those two things together is where the end result is. So you might find a case where the person in the number of positions is actually paying less than the person in the second spot because they're more relevant. So what does that mean? If you spend your time and invest it in the pieces that do make you relevant, for example, making sure that your categorization is done correctly, making sure that you have the correct keywords within your copy, making sure that you have strong shipping speed, that you have good pricing, all of these different factors that go into a good listing, if you work on that, you'll actually be able to spend less on advertising, and you don't have to necessarily just keep that money. You could invest in more keywords and grow share more broadly rather than very linearly in just one place where if you just don't optimize your listing, you keep your Amazon copy or your D2C copy, you don't really know what you're doing, you don't have a good score, you just spend. Not only is it going to cost you more, but your listings won't even stick as well because they don't have that ability to grow and succeed from an organic perspective. So I think that really sums that up, and as well as some of those other previous questions.
You guys use the term Walmart growth architecture. From an operations perspective, what does that really include?
It really comes down to understanding more broadly what's going on, right? What's going on Walmart, and what does growth mean? How is growth captured? How is growth measured on Walmart? Understanding things like tracking your organic rank or your sponsored rank, your share of voice, and there's other details. So many pieces of information that are available within Walmart where they give you your sales rank, they show you your click share, your impression share, your at the cart share. Just being able to track all this and seeing, okay, am I tracking my growth? And measuring that gives you that ability to see, okay, I'm doing well here, I'm not doing well here, and that gives you the ability to make those changes. But just understanding where the growth exists is what's going to help you, make those right decisions.
Why are early decisions around first party, third party, hybrid, and in store pathways so difficult to reverse once a brand starts scaling?
It's important if you're a supplier, if you're a seller, it's important to make the right decision of where you want to go. Now, things could be changed over time, but like one of the issues that exists today is your content rights. So if let's say you're a supplier as well as a seller, a supplier could mean you're in store, could mean you're 1P.com, it could mean you're doing dropship, DSV, and seller is a third party through Walmart Marketplace. If you're choosing to put your products on one platform or the other, you have to understand that the content rights are typically going to live where you set up your product. Content rights means the ability to make edits to, let's say, your copy, your categories, your attributes, anything within the listing, and very importantly, actually, your variations. Let's say you're a seller, you sell multiple colors of a product or different styles, sizes, whatever it is. Once you start to deal with now having items across a 1P and a 3P platform, you now deal with all sorts of issues. Because if you're trying to optimize your listings from one way or the next, it just becomes so difficult. You could even have split content rights. You could have half your attributes living on your 1P side, the other half on the 3P side, and it just makes it a little bit of a not so seamless experience. I know we're actually working with Walmart to try to solve this right now. This has been an issue that we've been facing alongside them, and especially for brands who sell across multiple platforms. That's just one of the common issues, and just understanding, okay, how does content rights work? Again, how does having it in 1P versus having it in 3P actually make a difference? And that could give you some insights. With regards to the actual performance aspect, each platform has its own benefits, and you have to understand what is the benefit on selling on marketplace and what's the benefit of selling as a supplier. Let's say, as obviously in store is going to be great if you have the ability to do so. That's going to be a great method for you as long as you can build the right traction, invest enough in advertising to grow that. For DSV, if you want maybe a little bit of a lower lift solution that doesn't require as much investment, that's something to do. For 3P, that's a great place. Has so many levers, so many of the .com, so much of the marketplace is driven by 3P because they have a lot of the placements on the front page. They have all these flash deals. They have promo campaigns. It's a great way to really push and boost your brand if you don't necessarily have that going on the 1P side. So there's really a good idea to, I believe in a hybrid. A hybrid is really the best approach for most suppliers and sellers, that it gives you really the best of both worlds.
David, what are the most common early missteps you see brands make that later create operational or margin pressure?
A very common thing is when it comes to incorrect details on your initial items and just kind of setting them up in a skeleton, like just setting up your products very bare bones, just here's the basics of my listing, and then having to deal with updating and optimizing them later on when you may run into a myriad of issues, or even just starting to work on the optimization, not optimization, on, let's say, the advertising piece of that, and then having to come back and reset where your bids are and pieces like that. There's a number of different issues within the setup process that you could go wrong, but just being able to make sure that when you set up your product, you're making sure that maybe if someone, let's say, set up that product beforehand, maybe you have a product that's been succeeding in store, been succeeding on another platform, and someone had previously listed it on Walmart, you want to make sure that you have that all squared away in the beginning, that when you're coming onto the platform and you're listing your product, making sure that you have, I think the content rights is a very important piece, taking a look to see if the info you added is all that's reflecting on the listing. And if it's not, you definitely need to go ahead to the cases side and make sure that part is squared away before you begin on advertising.
Yeah, great. Last question that would sort of fall into the category of early decisions. If a brand is unsure which pathway is right for them, what factors should they be evaluating before committing?
I would say let's break it down into the three key areas. I would say there's 1P owned, dropship, and 3P marketplace. Again, understanding what are the benefits of each is going to be a pivotal part of making that decision. So 3P generally is going to have the most opportunities to do things. You have, I call it, the most levers, because you could change the pricing. You could run all these different promotions that Walmart offers and gain all these different placements. There's more information that even exists from a seller perspective within 3P, which is interesting. Now, the limitations there are you have to now deal with the different costs that come with 3P. It's not similar on the supplier side. All you're really paying is, you're getting that cost from Walmart, and then you can invest in advertising. Whereas on 3P, you're actually getting the payment from the customer themselves, and then you have to pay Walmart a commission. You have to pay, if you're using Walmart fulfillment services, WFS for fulfillment, you have to pay them. Just understanding your P&L a little bit is going to be a key part. Now, let's say you're dropship. One of the hesitancies with the dropship vendors is that typically your shipping speeds are going to be slower than that of either owned or 3P. So that's something to consider. But typically, it's a very low-lift solution, like I'm saying, if you do have access to the program, to just get your listings live and make sales, because you don't have to worry about maybe some of the things that you would have to on the 3P side when it comes to, let's say, fulfillment costs or commissions. If your cost works for you, you're making money right away. And then on the own side, I think this is obviously a big goal for many sellers and suppliers. If you could achieve either 1P.com or in store, the issue there is if you don't, you really have to make sure that you're very strict on, let's say, OTIF, and you have to make sure you have a good relationship with your buyer. You have to also make sure your listings are selling. You're going to have to invest in advertising and in your digital penetration, because you need that to succeed. If you don't succeed over there, you're going to get pulled, you're going to get cut. So you're under a little bit more scrutiny, and you can't really work at your own pace at that point. You have to know that you're working under Walmart's pace at that point, and I think it's great if you could be there, but just there is work to be done. There is definitely work to be done.
Yeah. Let's spend a couple minutes talking about where execution breaks down, and then we'll get to the good stuff. From your perspective, where does true launch readiness on Walmart? What does true launch readiness actually look like?
Yeah, so I would say there's the fundamentals of launching an item. Number one is you want to make sure your categorization is set up correctly. Now, there's two pieces to categorization on Walmart. There's the product type, which is the really barrier to entry into keywords. So keywords live within a product type. This is something you could do some research into. I could share some more about this, but keywords live within a product type. A keyword could live within multiple product types, right? This makes sense. Let's say you're selling melatonin. That could be a dietary supplement. maybe an herbal supplement. There's vitamin supplements. There's all these different supplements that are all somewhat related to it. I think even a better example might be chocolate, right? There's 10 different types of chocolate product types. There's, you're going to have big bags of chocolate like mixes. You're going to have individual chocolates. You're going to have a food gift assortment. There's all these different ones. I could just pull up a list and just go through them. But you want to make sure that you're in a product type that is most relevant to your item. And it has to have some sort of relevancy, right? Because if you're in the wrong product type, like I'm saying, it's a barrier to entry. You will not be able to rank for certain keywords. So that's step one. Step two is the category path. Once you do list a product, Walmart gives you a shelf name, they'll call it, a primary category path. And this is the taxonomy. This you could easily see on any listing. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, it'll show you what the category path is. This is not actually something you determine yourself when you set up an item. Walmart automatically determines this for you based on your copy. And again, this is something that helps and applies to this relevancy score. This is going back to the previous comment about the relevancy score with advertising. This applies obviously to organic as well. So you want to make sure that your category path is in line with the top product. So how could you do this? We have tools to be able to pull this information, but how could you do this as a seller, supplier, getting your item set up? If you just go ahead, identify what your top keyword is. You have to think a little bit. There are some tools obviously for keyword research, but putting your top keyword into Walmart, take a look at the top 4 products that are organically placed and see what's their product type and see what's their category path. And you should be aligned with those. That's generally the best advice. Just take a look at where people are succeeding. Now, the third piece is going to be making sure that your copy has all your relevant keywords that you're trying to hit. So if you do know which keywords are going to be driving traffic in your category, you want to make sure that they are speckled throughout your copy. Most importantly, within your title. Your title is really going to be your most key driver to organic rank and success. And then lastly, this is obvious, if you're a supplier, this, your content quality score. You need that CQS to be at 95%. That is such a core piece in just general success on Walmart because your merchant's going to be on top of you for that. So just making sure that that's set up, even though it's not necessarily the biggest driver for organic growth, it's important that your listing does live there so it doesn't get flagged. And then you have to deal with, your merchant or, whatever issues from Walmart that come with that.
At what point do you typically see brands move from manageable complexity into execution strain?
As an agency, I obviously like to support on the execution, and I find it's when it maybe gets a little bit too complex on managing that relationship between the content and the media. There's only so far you could go without proper tools to work on advertising properly and to be the most efficient. Like I mentioned, is you could spend more, right? If let's say you're trying to win a top position on a keyword, you could spend $5 per click and win that number 1 spot. But what if you could win that same spot for $2? You don't necessarily know that because you haven't, maybe you tested it and you do know that, but if you don't actually see, hey, how relevant am I to this product, by making sure that all these things are on check and making sure to optimize your listing, not just on that keyword, but every other keyword that you're targeting, that's really where the complexity comes in. And I'll just share part of a strategy here that we've seen a lot of success with is to track, let's say there's 5 keywords that you're trying to rank for. These are 5 keywords you're trying to build organic rank for. You could see, okay, I'm currently ranking for 2 of them. So my target now would be to focus on 3 additional keywords. Let's say I want to work on them one at a time. As I have that keyword within, let's say, my title, or I'm optimizing my product type for that keyword, I'm driving ads towards that. So I have strong relevancy there. But now when I'm building on that keyword, you notice that one of those 2 keywords that you already ranked for starts to fall off. So you have to go ahead and make that edit again to make sure you recapture that rank on the previous keyword. And just, it's this balancing act of making sure that you're always focusing on the keyword where you have the least diminishing return and the most ability to grow organic sales. That's really like that. That's I would say, a key component of understanding where things maybe have go be a little bit beyond an everyday person's execution ability.
What warning signs tell you a brand is scaling faster than its operational foundation can support?
We actually have an interesting case like this where a brand is over-indexing a lot on their digital penetration, and the items are really killing it online, but the store piece is a little bit lagging behind. So that would kind of indicate a little bit of an issue when it comes to, is is the store, how do you drive maybe that store piece? How do you drive more sales from that standpoint? So that's where you have to now start to expand into maybe some additional ad plans. You have to maybe go offsite with your ads, work on some different methods that are going to be able to drive sales beyond just traditional maybe sponsored search. So additionally, if you want to think like if you see that your OTIF scores, let's say just very practically, right? If you're seeing that your items are just not being received in full and you're getting orders for significantly more than you could produce, at that point maybe you should consider, hey, maybe I should slow down a little bit on my advertising and still obviously ideally you want to be able to execute as well as you can and get as much inventory as you can to Walmart because if your products are selling, ride that train. But if you realize that there's issues there, you should definitely slow down on your ads. Make sure that operationally you could sustain it because the last thing you want to do is lose your store placement because you couldn't get your products in and your OTIF was terrible. So definitely important to constantly be looking at that, making sure that your metrics, that your merchants happy, and that you're hitting those core metrics that Walmart needs for you to succeed.
Yeah. I love this next question because it sort of gets to the secret sauce of what makes CellCord and the companies you work with so successful. How do you help brands correct course when execution starts to break down?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this is like you're saying, this is day to day. This is how do we take a look at a brand and see, okay, where are they bleeding? Where is the issue? Where is the issue going down here? And very, very, very commonly, it's coming down to again this misalignment between the content and media approach. How many brands have we seen that they've just been spending so much just to try win on search terms without putting in any effort or minimal or just not understanding, hey, my item's in the wrong category. What I've just been sitting here and dumping money into something that's going to have a very minimal ability to succeed from an organic perspective. And I just show this to brands who've been selling in Walmart for years and like, whoa, how do you even see this information? Like, how are you missing out on this? And just being able to understand, okay, there's clearly something here that's really that's really where we see success. I'll give just an example where we see this all the time is a lot of actually like historic brands, maybe we'll call them some dinosaur brands that they've been selling in Walmart for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. They've been there forever, but they don't really understand the digital side of things. And they've just been winning online because,
Hmm.
their products have always been the number one product for doormat. It's always just been there with their 3-word brand name doormat, gray, like just telling you nothing really about the product, not really hitting on more keywords because that product's been selling for years. They have the ability to succeed and really win at the top. But now that 3P has grown so significantly and really a lot of other suppliers are also understanding the digital piece. And, merchants are obviously pushing digital penetration. Now they actually have to invest and put some time in it.
Hmm.
For them, their response is, okay, digital just means let me spend something on advertising, make sure my content quality scores good. But that alone is really not enough to succeed. You have to go really beyond the content quality score to understand what actually drives incremental sales, what actually drives organic growth. And with that information, you're going to be able to succeed. And that's really where we find typically the biggest gap in understanding for these brands.
We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about operational alignment. David, many brands treat digital shelf, retail media, and operations as separate work streams. Why does that approach ultimately and predictably fail at Walmart?
Yeah, I mean, this is so core to what we're speaking about here is, again, when we think about this idea that your relevancy to a keyword impacts its cost per click, it impacts the actual bid on that product. If you understand that, you'll see that, okay, if I am not actively working on my organic optimizations for a product and I'm just advertising on it, you're going to be paying significantly more for worse placements. And that's really where we find this gap is we work with many brands who we do both their content and media, and we see that intertwining, and even we use a lot of tools that could automatically intertwine their strategy together. But for those brands who we only work on the content piece, yes, obviously we see success with it, and especially if we have a corroborative a media person and someone who's actually running the ads and making sure that the retail media is aligned with our content strategy, we see the best success like that. Second to obviously when we're doing it ourselves, but just if it's a separate team and they don't really care what's going on the content side, it's managed nationally and some big guy is just handling all their ads across all their different platforms and not giving it the attention it needs for Walmart, we find just a lot of ad spend just going to waste. Now, I guess a common question might be is, I thought Walmart has, guidelines in place or guardrails in place to prevent overspend, right? So Walmart has something called second price auction, which is if let's say I have a bid at $5 and the next person has their bid at $2, Walmart's only going to charge you $2.01. That's just, it makes sense. Typical reason is if someone has a typo, instead of putting in $5, you put in $5,000. Walmart's not going to take your $5,000. So with that in mind, you think, oh, this is a guardrail in place. If I could be winning a bid at $1.50, Walmart's only going to charge me $1.50, and that's where it's wrong. You may actually be paying only $2.01 because that's a cent above your competitor, but you actually might be able to win that bid at $1. And you wouldn't know that unless you were testing it out. And you wouldn't know that unless you're able to track, hey, what is my sponsored rank? Am I winning that top position? Am I not winning the top position? And without, you can do it manually. You can just go to that keyword and search, are you winning that top position? And there you get some information. But really, with that insight, it helps you make those better decisions. Okay, I need to improve my content here, or my content is already killing it. Let me go focus on another keyword or another product.
What operational discipline is required to support strong digital shelf performance at scale?
Yeah, so I say a good thing to do is to really understand your categories and work in batches. This is my general recommendation, especially if you have a large catalog. We work with brands of all sizes, and I'm talking about brands with like 20,000 listings, and it's like, okay, how do you even look at 20,000 listings? This is an impossible task here, and it's not about one at a time, because you're never going to be able to do things like that. You have to break down a catalog and you have to segment it into categories. And I suggest brands of really any size do this. You might have 10 products. If you have, that faith in your company that you're going to be able to grow it and succeed, it's always important to work on your categorization. Obviously, prioritization is important within the catalog, but understanding, hey, this product is within this category and this is within that category. And I'm not specifically referring to Walmart categories here. I mean, your own categories, understanding how do you break it down. Now, if you can align that to Walmart, that's obviously great, but just understanding where things live. And why is this better? Because this way, if you're doing, let's say, optimizations on your product, you could work in batches much easier. You could work in batches much more simply. You could put in, hey, here are these 10 products all within, my diapers category. You put it onto, you grab a file for all of those, and it's very easy to fill in and work in bulk when you're working across multiple products at the same time. Another piece that I highly recommend is, obviously, when it comes to discipline, is organization. I think you could be over-organized, which will prevent you from actually succeeding, because you have too many folders, you have trying to keep too many things in place. Once things start to expand and grow, you can't maintain all of it. You have to have that balance of organization and also simplicity within your organization. So making sure that you have your docs properly. I say a very common thing that really every brand should have, and it's so interesting how many brands struggle just to be able to provide an active SKU list. Like, here are my products that I'm selling. Like, that's it. Just have that somewhere simply put. And on that list, just have, here's my SKU, how I name it as a company. Here's my GTIN, my UPC. Here's my ASIN if I'm selling it on Amazon. Here's my Walmart ID. Here's my Walmart item number. Here's all the details that you need should be very simply put in a spreadsheet internally. If you're using Excel, if you're using Google Sheets, have that somewhere that you maintain, that you keep up to date, because if you have that information, it just gives you that ability to, if you're working with someone, if you want to just quickly sort and view your portfolio, you want to look at different pieces, it's just such a core piece that is required. Now, obviously, if you have systems and you work with a PIM or beyond that, depending on the size of your company, obviously that's going to be even stronger. But just having a very simple spreadsheet with the details of your company is just such an important piece, instead of just like, oh, you have it on scraps, you have it here or there. Maybe you just have SKUs in one place. Just keeping everything tightly in record is really a big advantage.
David, how should brands think about aligning retail media investment with supply availability and fulfillment realities?
Most definitely, it's very important that you're on top of your inventory components. Not only on top of your inventory, but actually on top of your Walmart specific inventory. And what I mean by that is, this is kind of a interesting line that challenger brands need to toe. Is, let's say Walmart's not purchasing as much as you'd like them to. So you could go a couple of ways. You could invest a lot in advertising and sell through and just, hey, you ran out of inventory, please buy more. But even that, you need to think about how quickly you want to do that, because obviously if the merchant sees the product selling, they're going to want to purchase more. But if they're not going to be able to purchase in time, and you just spent all this money to now go out of stock, you keep on going through this cycle of overspending. Because let's say every time your item goes out of stock, you're losing rank. It's very bad for listings to ever go out of stock. So you're spending, you go out of stock, so you just waste all that money. Now you have to spend again, you go out of stock again. It's just like this cycle. But on the other side, a merchant might actually be more inclined to purchase more because they see that, hey, you keep going out of stock. So there is that piece. Now, if it's a you problem, meaning you can't maintain the inventory, you need to slow down. You just need to slow down. Take a look at your velocity. Take a look at how many units you're selling every week. Understand that as you grow, you're going to also grow your incremental sales. See what your organic sales percentage versus what you have organic versus your ad sales. See what your organic sales percentage is, and just know, okay, if I turn off ads today, how many organic sales am I going to be hitting? And just see if you turn them off, okay, I have inventory for the next, I don't know, 3 weeks. Okay, now you know if you can get more inventory in within that time period, you're good. So making sure to be on top of your inventory management and your velocity will give you a little bit of insight into, okay, this is how much I should be spending. And you could cut down on your ads and only focus on areas where, or let's say just smaller keywords, just to keep your ad sales a little bit lower if you are running out of stock. But definitely, again, like I'm saying, is I know there's always difficulties when it comes to manufacturing and producing products, but if you could maintain that and keep things going, it's really the most ideal for your business.
Where do you most often see misalignment between marketing teams and operations teams?
It's a very, very interesting one. Is especially I noticed this with maybe some larger brands, is their marketing teams are too broad. And what I mean is they don't necessarily just look at Walmart. They're obviously looking at all these different platforms where items are selling, though, beyond Amazon, D2C, all these different pieces. And they treat Walmart still in its old vision as a smaller, not such a digital company, right? They treat Walmart as a retailer more than they do as much of an e-commerce. And what that causes is the lack of investment in that piece. When so many suppliers should realize that Walmart is their biggest customer. So many suppliers. How many suppliers is Walmart the biggest customer? Yet they don't give it a fraction of the ad spend over there or optimization that they do on other platforms because the other ones are maybe more e-commerce, you know? And now that Walmart's really evolved into this, substantial player within the e-commerce game, if you're misaligned, it's just going to cause an issue because you're not investing as much where you really should be investing as your largest customer. And I've seen firsthand large suppliers who have lost in-store placements. Like they're losing not just their online, but they're losing actual in-store placements to a digital native brand or to a new brand, the challenger brand that's coming up. So important just to understand who Walmart is for you.
David, we're going to shift gears again and talk about omnichannel reality and in-store expansion. 6 more questions, and then we'll go into the Q&A with the attendees. So, for digital-first brands, what operational blind spots tend to surface when moving toward in-store at Walmart?
A dream for a lot of suppliers to be able to get from just a digital brand to now getting in store. But if you've never done retail, the level of compliance is real. There's a very big step into the level of compliance that you have to now take care of. And we do also support brands on their in-store journey and growth and make sure that everything is set up there. But you need to make sure that you have obviously the capacity from an inventory perspective, but also you need to now learn and figure out retail link. You have to be able to go through there and understanding replenishment. You have to understand Nova. You have to understand all these different apps that exist within this platform that maybe you're just familiar with just listing your products and running ads and optimization and that cycle. But now you have to deal with an actual physical component of shipping and dealing with all this. And you really can't screw up because especially as a new brand, your metrics are the most important at that time, right? You really have to build that rapport with Walmart that you are someone who maintains your metrics, that you have not just your digital content scores, but also, let's say, obviously your OTIF, making sure that your scores are constantly at the top. Walmart is, the Fortune 1, right? They need to make sure that they have measures in place and KPIs that run their operation. And even if your merchant loves you and you have this great relationship, if your scores aren't good, you're going to get cut. It's just how it is. That's just how it works. You can't think that you're going to be the exception because, oh, I have a great relationship and I sell good products. No, you have to understand there are things in place. There are KPIs there for a reason. You have to make sure that those are being hit. And if you can hit them, make sure that if you can't hit those, make sure that you give yourself enough time so that when you are ready to start, then you can hit those KPIs. You have to make sure that you're not going to screw that up, because starting off on the wrong foot is going to tarnish your future relationship as well.
David, how does execution change when shelf space replenishment and store level availability become part of the equation?
It's actually very interesting. So this is something that Walmart faces, I would say, more than really any other e-commerce platform, is for in-store brands that are available in different locations. What I mean by that is, let's say you're Amazon, just an easy example here, is they obviously have fulfillment centers distributed throughout the US. And the idea is to have as much coverage as possible for your e-commerce products. On Walmart, it's not necessarily apples to apples, because what your store selection is typically going to be based on is not necessarily for the online fulfillment. It's what region your products sell in store. But you could have fulfillment that is across the entire US, and you might have an area where you do have a gap, right? There might be certain regions that you're not necessarily succeeding in, because either the stores are all sold out and you don't have any inventory nearby, or there's just no store nearby that has product because you're not selling in that region. So something I suggest you do, as if you're trying to be cheap about it, I would just suggest going into Walmart, putting in your keyword to find your product, even just the product itself, and changing your zip code, like going through, let's say, a few different regions. Obviously you could go crazy and go through 50 of them, or you could use softwares that do this for you, which is something that we do offer. And you can just see, hey, where am I lacking my digital growth? Where do I not have fulfillment? And you'll see it's pretty crazy. You'll see a listing go from in stock, delivery tomorrow, to out of stock. The same exact PDP in two different cases. You don't really see that on Amazon, if you see it at all. And that's what's fascinating, because Walmart's obviously leveraging their store for fulfillment. So now it's how can you go beyond? How can you fix that? What is a great executional step that you could do to solve this? So there's a couple of ideas. Number one, if you have the relationship with your merchant, highly recommend you speak to them about a 1P owned for .com, 1P owned.com, and .com only. And Walmart will actually, instead of shipping from stores, you'll be able to send inventory to fulfillment centers, and they'll do the fulfillment through there. And if you have with that, you typically have enough distribution across the US to cover everything within 2 days. If that's not an option, you always have 3P brands. Again, they always fail to remember this, but you always have 3P available. You could sell your own product on your own PDP as a backup. And let's say you have very strong fulfillment in the South, because all your products are in the South, south of US, right? But the North or the East or the West, whatever region that you don't have coverage, make sure that your inventory exists within WFS, that you could have that 2-day shipping available for your customers there. And this way, when you're running ads, you are actually able to drive traffic everywhere. Because actually, something interesting when it comes to advertising, specifically, let's say sponsored search, there's no regional targeting. You just have a keyword, right? That's it. You're taking an item and a keyword. So you can actually be investing in places where, let's say you have 5-day shipping, you're never going to convert over there. Or you can be investing in a place that everywhere has 2-day shipping, if you are leveraging, let's say, 3P or 1P.com. So a little bit of an important piece to really think about if you're on limited stores.
David, what needs to be true operationally before a brand should seriously pursue in-store expansion?
For sure. Simply put, is you need to have the ability to execute. You need to have the ability to execute from a content perspective. Make sure that your content scores are strong enough, that you're able to drive digital penetration. And then obviously is just the inventory piece. If you don't have the ability to fulfill your orders, don't even waste your time. Just make sure that you have that strong relationship with your manufacturer. And not just, so many brands have just attempted and just failed, and because the volume got too big, their manufacturer couldn't do it. And then they found someone else, so it's too late. Now they're stuck with a bunch of inventory that they can't sell anywhere anyway. So very important that you have a good streamlined operation when it comes to inventory.
Just in the way of wrapping up, if you could give one piece of advice to a challenger brand trying to scale on Walmart without breaking their business, what would it be?
Obviously, come work with SellCord. No, I'm kidding. So I would say is to have the understanding of content first. Understand how important and impactful content is on Walmart over media, especially your challenger brand budgets are tight. Focus first on your content. Try to learn, understand. There's great resources available online. You can watch. We put out a lot of content on this as well. Watch this. Watch Matt. There's a really, really good information that exists when it comes to understanding content first, and then focusing on the media side. Don't just blow all your money on ads and not actually see a return. So I would say that would be the one core area to focus on.
Yeah, very good. What is one thing brands should stop doing today because it creates long-term execution risk?
It's interesting. Again, I really want to lean on the same topic here is don't overinvest without understanding the platform. Don't treat Walmart as a secondary marketplace. This is a very common thing. Like people treat Walmart as a second business. Don't think of it as like this other marketplace. Maybe it's not your number one, but don't treat it as like one of these other scraps, like another random place you're selling. No, treat it as the business it is. It's the number one revenue company in the world for a reason.
Yeah. My sense is your answer to this question would be similar to the last two. Where should brands focus in the next 60 to 90 days in order to support sustainable scale?
So I'll give a little bit of a different idea here. I would say if you're thinking out 60, 90 days, think about how your products fit into Walmart seasonally. And understanding that this is actually a very common idea. I just want to leave on this nugget is, let's say you have, I don't know, a product that's going to be back to school, right? Obviously, we're a little bit far out from that, but let's just say, allergy season's coming up, right? Let's say something allergy season, April's big for allergies. Your product's going to really succeed then, right? Really grow and have the most traction. Allergy is going to be really hot keywords then in spring, right? You could wait until then, not do anything, maybe have your listing just existing and then spend all your budget in April. Now think about what's happening in April. You're not the only genius to think about this. Every other allergy brand is also going to be investing very aggressively in April. So what can you do as a true genius, as a Walmart genius, is you could actually start investing now. And as you spend over the next 2 months and build up that relevancy, remember this idea that the top placements for ads is not just about how much you spend, it's about relevancy and spend. So if you invest over the next 2 months into understanding, hey, I'm building on my relevancy, I have a very strong organic rank, a very strong sponsor rank. When allergy season comes and now everyone else is jumping in, you could even turn off spend altogether. I don't know if I recommend that, but you could spend a fraction of what other brands are doing because that's how they're traditionally used to it. They're traditionally used to just spending as the season comes along. So understanding about how to plan a little bit more in advance of seasonality, that'd be a tip over there.
For companies that's interested in learning more about SellCord, maybe working with you all, how would you define your sweet spot? If there was a company, size, stage, category, where you really are at your best, what does that look like?
For sure. So we work with brands of all sizes, but generally speaking, we like to have brands who either have a strong digital presence, you've been able to succeed well on, let's say, Amazon or D2C, and you have customers who are really purchasing your products and growing. Or on the other side, if let's say you're a brand who has a strong in-store Walmart presence, right? You're already succeeding well in store, but your digital piece is something that you're trying to really understand. We really know our stuff when it comes to Walmart.com and how to grow your business in that area. So if that's an area you're struggling with, that's where we can help.
Very good. All right. For anyone that wants to stick around, we are going to stop recording